Are we witnessing the beginning of the end of single supplier supply chains? The G7 certainly hopes so. Throw in continuing overhaul of European customs, a long-awaited launch date for the UK-India trade deal, and more on WTO reform. All the while, we wait and see if US-Iranian peace talks will secure the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Together, you have a week that's seen big developments in international trade. Welcome to This Week in Trade. In this episode, we're filtering out the noise to bring you the high-impact international trade developments of the past week.
Welcome to This Week in Trade, bringing you a quick roundup of the latest international trade news and analysis from Goidel Limited's director George Riddell and the Geneva Trade Platform.
Today, we're kicking things off with a major supply chain mandate out of the G7, checking in on the new US-EU trade deal, and running through a quick-fire round of global free trade agreements. Let's dive in. We start in Evian, France, where G7 Leaders Summit has just wrapped up. The leaders adopted a coordinated statement directly targeting the security of critical mineral supply chains, acting in response to market concentration and the rising use of economic coercion. The headline takeaway is a concrete, unified target. The G7 intends to reduce its dependency on any single external supplier for rare earths and permanent magnets to below 60% by 2030. with an ambition to reach 50% as soon as possible. Ministers have been tasked with setting comparable reduction rates for other critical minerals by the end of the year. To back this up, they've established a new G7 Critical Minerals Resilience and Production Alliance to coordinate industrial cooperation, stockpiling, and recycling. In related statement on growth and trade, they also explicitly called out China to strengthen domestic sources of growth and remove distortive policies. If your product relies on permanent magnets, rare earths, or EV batteries, the geopolitical push to diversify is slowly moving from talk to action, with targets being adopted. Let's see if this is followed by new government financing to build alternative supply chains, but also brace for stringent new traceability and reporting requirements as governments look to verify exactly where inputs are coming from. Next up, a major transatlantic development. The European Parliament has overwhelmingly approved legislation to implement the US-EU Turnberry Trade Deal. This regulation officially removes tariffs on US industrial goods and selected agricultural products. The Council is expected to formally approve the text on the 26th of June, which means these tariff reductions could take effect between the 27th of June and the July 4th deadline set by President Trump. However, the final text is heavily guarded with caveats. The EU has built in a safeguard mechanism to suspend the regulation if US imports threaten EU producers, as well as a suspension clause if the US discriminates against EU operators. Crucially for heavy industry, if the US doesn't drop its tariffs on EU steel and aluminium derivatives below 15% by the end of 2026, the EU can suspend concessions on those specific products. The entire regulation also comes with a sunset clause set to expire at the end of 2029 unless extended. The US's decision to open a Section 301 investigation on German pharmaceutical pricing might just be another fault line in getting this deal over the line. Speaking of Section 301 investigations, the Supreme Court has officially declined to review a challenge to the Section 301 tariffs on Chinese goods dated from the first Trump presidency, meaning thousands of suspended customs protests will now move back into the normal administrative procedures. Let's shift gears for a quick round of FTA updates across the globe. First, big news for the UK and India. Both governments have confirmed that their long-negotiated free trade agreement will officially enter into force on the 15th of July, having resolved all remaining issues. Over in North America, the US and Mexican teams have just wrapped up their second round of USMCA negotiations in Washington, tackling rules of origin for industrial goods, agriculture, and labor, with the next round for July taking place in Mexico City. Meanwhile, the EU and Malaysia met last week for their fourth round of FTA talks. The UK and Malaysia launched negotiations for a digital trade agreement. And finally, New Zealand and the UK held their third FTA Joint Commission since the deal went live in 2023. If you deal with European customs, this next update is critical. The European Commission is completely overhauling its procedural framework for preferential origin under the Union Customs Code via a new implementing regulation, 2026-1183. This is a massive push towards digitalization. Supplier declarations are moving to standardized electronic formats. The old paper verification procedures are being scrapped for direct customs-to-customs verification, and a new EU proof of origin certificate system, which will progressively replace the paper Euro 1 certificates. For businesses, this is not just an administrative update. It imposes strong active obligations, with suppliers now needing to notify customers if an origin declaration is incorrect. Primary planning deadlines is for the 23rd of December 2027. By then, businesses will need to have upgraded ERP configurations and supplier workflows to handle automated origin data and avoid surprise duty exposure. Finally, we head to the World Trade Organization, where the US has faced the WTO membership over its 10% universal import surcharge under Section 1.2. At the Balance of Payments Committee, China, Brazil, New Zealand, Turkey, and others question the legality of the measure. The US has stated that it doesn't plan to relax the surcharge during its 150-day duration. China highlighted the recent US court ruling that found the surcharge was not lawfully authorized, while Turkey pointedly asked why Canada and Mexico were excluded if this is genuinely about balance of payments. In other news, Australia has put forward its proposal for WTO reform to the body's consensus-based decision-making process. They're arguing that the effective veto power held by individual members is a practice, not a legal requirement, and are pushing for alternatives like opt-outs or abstentions to break the current rulemaking deadlock. Let's see how it lands ahead of the July General Council. That's your wrap-up for this week's most critical trade developments. The landscape continues to evolve rapidly, and staying ahead of these shifts is vital. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.
Those are the headlines from This Week in Trade. To go deeper, check out more comprehensive breakdown of these and other developments on Georgia's LinkedIn. This is a new series we'll be looking to evolve and expand based on your feedback, refining what we're presenting, and adding new voices. Let us know in the comments below and via the contact form on GTP's website how we can make this a more relevant and useful accompaniment to your coffee.